You look good, Richard. You look good.
Thanks, I could have kept that on there. I will keep that on there. Hi, Bob, how are you?
Really good. Nice to be with you, Richard.
Yeah, just thanks for coming on the podcast, Bob. I'm really, when I got the Man on a Mission, it's called, when I got the podcast going, I was just dying to get you on because it's been such a big part of my life in terms of meditation and the impact it's had. And what you do in the world of meditation is just phenomenal. So, and I think for people to hear that and to listen to that is really great. So thanks for coming on, Bob. Really appreciate it.
Happy to be on, Richard. Happy to have a conversation. Your audience should know that Richard is one of the finest human beings I know. Deeply honest, honorable, true, genuine, really great.
Oh, thanks, Bob.
Really
Thanks,
great.
thanks very much.
True.
What I was aiming, we're just talking there really, but what I'm aiming to really look at is some of the misperceptions about meditation, some of the ways that you break meditation down, and in particular we're talking about transcendental meditation, and how effective that can be. Some of the science as well, which is massively important for all those skeptics out there. And I know that you always say you can come as skeptical as you want to the process, to doing TM.
Yes.
And then sort of mentioning really, but what are you actually doing at the minute, Bob, for people to know? What's your role?
Well, I'm the head of the David Lynch Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that's established in the United States and 35 other countries, including the UK. And it's a foundation started by David Lynch, the great filmmaker, to bring the evidence-based transcendental meditation technique, Richard, to at-risk populations. So we started off with bringing it to inner city school kids who suffer under incredible stress and trauma. We work with veterans and their families who suffer from post-traumatic stress and suicide ideation and depression and substance use disorder. We also work with women and children who are survivors of domestic violence. And the thing we're focused on now is bringing the meditation for free to the doctors and nurses and custodial staff and other healthcare providers on the front lines of this COVID-19 pandemic. So we address the epidemic or the pandemic of trauma and toxic stress using something as simple and powerful and effective as transcendental meditation.
Which as we're going to talk about, has been transformational in my life as a practice. And I did the figures, and I think it was around 10 years ago that we first met. And I was fortunate enough to
tell the story. You should tell the story.
Well, I love the story because I was actually really fortunate. And at the time, I was working in the security world, wasn't I? And we were in a beautiful, beautiful resort in Bali. And I was with Katy Perry, and I was doing the security with Katy for a while. And we ended up there. And I have to say, I was interested in meditation. I was doing some sort of mindfulness meditation practice and just sort of trying those things. And then you wandered in and started talking about meditation to people, and my ears just pricked up. I couldn't believe it. I was like, who is this guy? So somebody explained to me, and then I went to people at that end, and I sort of said, is there any chance I can jump on? And it was great because we were sat meditating. You taught us meditation over those few days in Bali, a private practice in the end where the ceremony that we had. And and it just, I thought how bizarre it was. I was sat next to Katy meditating with you directing us. It was just absolute.
That was also the first night I was there. I don't know if you remember. I just arrived and I fell into the swimming pool, fully clothed. Katy wanted me to take a picture, or I would take a picture of Katy and all the hotel staff. And I was teetering between a big bonfire in front of me and a swimming pool behind. And someone said, "Get down, kneel down lower." And I knelt down with the camera and fell into the pool. That was my first hello to everybody in Bali. But I do remember Katy's been practicing transcendental meditation since 2010, and she said, as you said, and as many people who do it say, it's life transforming, it saves life, it gets rid of stress, it makes you more resilient, and just makes you feel more comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah, I didn't know. I did mention that to my girlfriend the other day about the swimming pool incident, and she said to
I
me,
went in, yeah.
she said, "Are you going to mention it?" And I thought, well, I don't know really, but you brought it up, thankfully, Bob. So
No, I brought it up. I remember going into the pool. It was with my cell phone, holding it, falling into the pool with my cell phone above my head to try and keep it out of the water, and then I fell back in. Anyway, that was a moment that I would like to forget, but I don't. So now I just embrace it. I just embrace it.
yeah. How long have you been meditating, Bob?
51 years.
Wow.
I started meditating when I was 18. I'm going to turn 70 in 2 months. And I started as a college student between my first and second year at university. I was under a lot of stress. This was in the 60s. I was under a lot of stress and pressure to focus, to sleep well. You know, I had to remember things because I'm in college, and there was riots in the streets over the Vietnam War. And I am by nature a very skeptical person. So I didn't want to wreck my brain with drugs, and I didn't want to get into some weird woo-woo new age stuff. But someone told me about Transcendental Meditation, and I really respected them. And when I found out more about it and said there wasn't a religion and it wasn't a philosophy and I could be skeptical and it would be help me physiologically, I started. And Richard, I just sort of knew right away that this would be a tool, like brushing my teeth or whatever, eating food. I would make this part of my life, and that's what I've done.
Wow. And you were going down a different track originally, weren't you? In terms
Pardon?
You were going down a different track in terms of career.
Yeah. No, I grew up in a very political time. I grew up wanting to change the world, as we all did in the 60s. And I worked for United States Senator Bobby Kennedy when he was going for the presidential nomination of the Democratic Party. And I really wanted him to be the nominee in 1968. And I went and saw him speak in San Francisco the date was June 1st, 1968. And I looked around the room with 2,000 other people, and I thought, we're going to change the world. And then 4 days later, Richard, he was assassinated. Wow. In Los Angeles, and that was a stunning blow to me. And I thought, I said, okay, I'm going to become a United States Senator like Bobby Kennedy and change the world. And the thing was, it was so insane at Berkeley, just the violence and the divisiveness of politics, that I thought, I'll always be interested in politics, but it's not going to be my path to save the world. It's to save the world or change the world. It's too destructive. It's not going to politics will never heal the soul of the nation. So then I thought education, and I would write educational curriculum and come up with tools that kids could have, young kids in the inner cities, that they could have to help them navigate a very stressful life. And then when I learned Transcendental Meditation, I had the thought, oh, maybe this is the tool that I would like to give to those kids. And that was June 28th, 1969. And now I have the good fortune of running the David Lynch Foundation, and we've taught 1 million kids for free to meditate. So wow. It's a full circle, and it's a nice place to be.
It's an amazing story. Jumping in, Bob, because people listening, we've mentioned Transcendental Meditation now, and as you said, could you talk to the different types of meditation that are available to people? And then I'd like to really sort of delve into some of the misperceptions that people have about meditation, because that for me has been the biggest thing, really, them barriers that people have got. So
I find just by preface, it's a very interesting time, because never has there been a greater need to do some form of meditation than with the coronavirus and the stress. Like right now, stress levels and anxiety levels are so high. Never has there been more opportunities to do some form of meditation, whether it's an app like a Headspace or Calm or Muse, or it's a online guided meditation or mindfulness or whatever. But there's never been more confusion about what meditation is. I mean, when you say you meditate, people don't know what it means. So you say, I'd like to meditate, I don't know where to start. So with that as a background, preface, I'd like to explain that according to science, you take in all the meditations that are out there, there's basically 3 fundamental types of meditation. And the analogy I use is an ocean where you have choppy waves on the surface, turbulent, sometimes tsunami-esque waves on the surface, but the depth of the ocean is by its nature very silent. And we use that as analogous to the mind and meditation. So the mind, the surface of the mind are like the thoughts, all the thoughts and moods and feelings, and it's the monkey mind, they call it. I have another, I call it
the gotta mind. Sorry.
Gotta mind. And so meditation comes along from thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, been coming on to how to bring equanimity to the mind, power to the mind, happiness to the mind, peace to the mind, connection. So how to make the mind strong and open and loving, happy. So 3 basic types, and they know the 3 types by doing brain research, because is this too much detail or is this okay?
No, not at all. It's fantastic,
okay.
Bob. Yeah.
So 3 basic types of meditation according to brain research. And they use brain research to study meditation because they know, Richard, that every distinct experience we have in the brain has a distinct impact. I mean, every distinct experience I have in life has a distinct experience and registers in the brain. So if I'm listening to classical music, it has one effect on the brain. If I'm listening to heavy metal music, it has another effect. If I'm watching a romantic comedy, it has one effect on the brain. If I watch a David Lynch horror film, it has another effect on the brain. So they said, all right, let's get all these different people to meditate and let's see what happens in the brain. 3 basic types. So now I'm going to answer your question. I have to use that all as preface, context. The first type of meditation, Richard, is your sort of standard Hollywood, what we think meditation is. It's called focused attention. Focused attention says, if you want to have a calm mind, what disrupts a calm mind? Thoughts. Yeah. So stop thoughts and you'll have a calm mind. It's like saying, if you want to have a calm ocean, what disrupts a calm ocean? Waves. So stop the waves, you'll have a calm ocean. So focused attention as a type of meditation trains us to concentrate, clear the mind of thoughts, put more space between our thoughts, really. And we concentrate on our breath, we concentrate on a point on our body, we concentrate on an idea, but don't let the mind wander. Just takes a lot of energy to do that, very difficult to do. It creates something called gamma brain waves, which are 20 to 50 cycles per second, where the brain is working very fast. Second type of meditation is called open monitoring, and I know mindfulness you've done, and I want to ask you about mindfulness in a little bit. So get ready, I have some questions for you. Open monitoring says, I mean, it's a big field, but one thing it says is thoughts themselves are not necessarily the disruptor of calm, but the content of thoughts can be the disruptor of calm. So if you have a thought about a guy named Joe and you don't know anybody named Joe, but if you have a thought about a guy named Joe and 10 years ago Joe did you wrong, and you think about him, then you get tense, angry, hurt, whatever. So open monitoring teaches us to dispassionately observe that thought. Be in the present. Don't be 10 years ago. Don't be way back then. Be right here now. And so it's open. And so mindfulness teaches us to be mindful here. Again, not the past, not the future, in the present. We find equanimity in the present. And there's mindful walking and mindful talking and mindful eating, correct? All these different mindfulness approaches. You want to say something?
I was just going to say, in acceptance of the present moment, really, as well, isn't it? It's whether that's good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, rather than trying to make it a nirvana, beautiful.
Yes, just be in the present. Just whatever it is, be in the present. Don't be past. Don't worry. Just be in the present. When we do that approach, it creates something called theta brainwaves. The first was gamma, fast. Theta brainwaves are 4 to 8 cycles per second, and that's like pre-onset dream. It's also can be the brainwave pattern when you're thinking deeply about something. You're having a thought, you're following the thought. So focused attention, open monitoring. These are both, by definition, cognitive approaches to meditation. That means pertaining to the waves, pertaining to your thoughts, your moods, your feelings. Self-transcending is the third type according to science. And self-transcending recognizes, yes, thoughts are there, waves are there, but recognizes that there's a vertical dimension to the mind, that we feel things deeply. We love deeply. We hurt deeply. We have an intuition. Somebody tells us something on the surface level, oh, I have a business plan for you, and it makes sense on an intellectual level, but on a quiet level of the mind, intuition, you go, I don't think so, Jack. Well, even deeper than that is the hypothesis in self-transcending. Within every human being right now, there's a level deep within everyone where the mind is like the ocean, already calm and settled and peaceful. And it's there. We've lost access. We are stuck up here on the surface thinking level. And transcendental meditation, and I can go into it more detail later, transcendental meditation gives effortless access to that quieter, we don't always go to that calm level, but just quieter levels, cooler levels of the mind. And when that happens, my electrical activity in the brain changes to something called alpha 1, which is 8 to 10 cycles per second. And uniquely to TM, my body gains a state of rest deeper in many regards than sleep. Long answer, but at least you got the story.
I think no, thanks, Bob. I think it's amazing for people to, that analogy, I've said it to many people as well, and it makes so much sense, that cross-section of the waves, and just being able to access, I mean, one of the very physical outcomes for me from meditation, in almost every meditation, is in the relaxation of the upper vertebrae in the top part of the back and the neck. And just with, not trying to do it, just in the meditation, I find them pop, they just pop, randomly pop. And I feel this relaxation in there. And I sometimes say that to people to try and give them some sort of idea of the relaxation that can come from the TM, from doing TM itself. So,
well, there's a, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go on, Rob.
There's a hormone called cortisol, which is secreted by the brain. Cortisol is called a stress hormone. We need some cortisol to get up in the morning. It's part of to the extreme, the fight or flight response, where we just mobilizes. But everybody has too much cortisol, and what happens is when the body, and that makes us feel anxious and worried and sort of edgy and tight, and then when we feel that way, the brain in response secretes more cortisol, and we feel more anxious and it becomes a vicious cycle. And when we get a good night's sleep, your body relaxes enough to reduce cortisol levels by about 8%. And during 20 minutes of transcendental meditation, the body relaxes enough to reduce cortisol levels by 30 to 40%. And nothing else does that. And that is, the reason why that's important is cortisol weakens the immune system. So we're more vulnerable to sickness, like coronavirus, but anything, cancer, heart disease. It really destabilizes and weakens the immune system. Second thing that it does is it doesn't allow us to metabolize our food, so we're not as healthy, we're not digesting food properly. And the last thing it does is it hyper arouses the amygdala, which is your fight or flight part of the brain, and it shuts down the prefrontal cortex, which is your CEO of the brain. This is where you solve problems and you think clearly and you have good judgment. That goes offline when there's too much cortisol.
Yeah. And I think, as you said, I mean, what I'm seeing, Bob, is I'm sort of terming it a bubbling up to the surface at the moment in the pandemic. But ultimately something that was there anyway in terms of people being caught in the thinking mind that creates those levels of stress, the storyline that people are telling themselves, that we tell ourselves, that impacts all of our well-being. And like you said, often leaves us in an almost constant state of fight or flight. When I say to people fight or flight, they think it's just when some momentous thing happened that they really got scared. But the actual release of cortisol in the body from activity in the brain is almost a constant. And so, again, affecting people's sleep, affecting people's overall well-being and ability to be able to focus and perform and reach higher levels of things that they do. So, I knew instinctively that this was something that I now see as, you term it sometimes as like going for a shower, you do your meditation. And I should say we practice the meditation 20 minutes twice a day typically, don't we, in terms of TM. And I've almost done that every day for the last 10 years. And
so do you tell people your story? Because it was so interesting when you had been doing mindfulness for a long time, and it was hard at first, sort of to understand that TM was so effortless and it was easy, and it was such, you provided such insight into the difference. You couldn't believe that the TM was so easy or effortless. What was your experience?
Well, it's interesting you say, because I think it leads into some of the misperceptions that people have about meditation. I think I understood meditation, but being a very sort of driven guy, maybe wanting an outcome focused, it induced a lot of forcing and trying in what I was doing. And prior to meeting you and training in the TM, I'd been almost driving myself insane years and years ago with my understanding of mindfulness. And so I was trying to achieve almost a state of, I think I was trying to be the Dalai Lama or something. I was actually trying to achieve a state that was a constant state of well-being. I do remember, though, that when we first did the meditation with you and again with Katy and the group of us there, and I remember you asking everybody, how was that? And we went round the group and everyone was going, yeah, it was really nice. It was, relaxing, It got to me. I felt like I'd done 10 rounds with Mike Tyson in my head. So it was this, what I would say is for people that have struggled with meditation is, I've almost struggled, as you know, we've had refresher calls, don't we? And I've struggled with meditation sometimes in and out, and sometimes still do to some extent, but much less over the years and years. The effortlessness of the meditation is something else, and you described that we're doing these refreshers at the moment, aren't we, online, and I've been jumping in.
Are you joining on some? Do you join some of those?
I've joined a lot, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I've joined a lot. Really enjoying them, really great. And some of the, can you talk us through what you actually say? Because the way that you say that, sometimes, no outcome, we're not expecting any outcome. And
well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, how the meditation works is the principle of other forms of meditation has been the mind is a monkey. Yes. And you need to stop the monkey mind. So it just is going to wander aimlessly, and you somehow have to stop that. So it requires a great deal of control to maintain calm on the surface of the ocean or the surface of the mind. Well, Transcendental Meditation was introduced by a great Indian physicist turned meditation teacher, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and his insight was a return to meditation of ages ago, that the mind is not a monkey. It doesn't need to be controlled. Given the opportunity, the mind will always be drawn. It seeks happiness, seeks knowledge, seeks love, seeks pleasure, seeks delicious, seeks fragrant, seeks beautiful. Just the mind. You're in a room listening to terrible music. In the other room, some gorgeous music comes on. Where's your attention go? To that gorgeous music. Effortlessly. So here's the mind, by its nature, given the opportunity, wants to find happiness, wants to feel better. Inside, hypothetically, because I like about TM, you don't have to believe in anything, but inside is a field of happiness, power, bliss, silence, my own inner nature. Nice place. So in Transcendental Meditation, we learn how to give the attention of the mind an inward direction, rather than it going out to the senses looking for, oh, that relationship is going to make me ultimately happy, or that job's going to make me ultimately happy, or that dinner is going to make me ultimately happy, which of course it doesn't. Yes. They're wonderful, but it's not ultimately. So we turn the attention within, like that cross-section of the ocean, and without any effort whatsoever, the mind, with the use of a mantra, the mind is drawn inward because deeper levels are more satisfying. Just like you're gripping a tennis ball and you want the ball to be on the ground, you just loosen the grip and then gravity takes over. So the mind is focused, we learn how to just loosen the grip, and without any effort, the active thinking mind quiets down. So when I remind people how to meditate, I just make that point. This is not these deeper levels of my own nature, very tender. I can't force my way there. You can't force it. You can only, it's not like, like a hammer, you're going to pound. You set up the conditions. And so when I remind people, the effortlessness is we just set up the conditions, let the mind take its own course. So I'll say, don't fight things. And when you forget them, you're given a mantra by a certified teacher. And
I was going to say about the mantra, yeah. So people understand that in TM.
So a mantra is a word or a sound, 1 to 3 syllables, no meaning associated with a nice sound, that a certified teacher will select for you from this ancient meditation tradition, and will give this, teach you the mantra. But as importantly, just takes a minute to give you the mantra, as importantly, how to use it properly, how not to strain on it, how not to just use it as a vehicle for that inward dive. And so I have a regular morning and afternoon refresher by phone for people who practice Transcendental Meditation. And one of the things I do is repeat that over and over and over again, because everything we do in life, we have to strain. We teach our kids, work harder, focus harder, be better today than yesterday. And we need to do that. You got to get ahead. But there's a residue, and the residue is stress, fatigue. That's what you have to do outside. But to go in, it's the opposite of strain. It's just easy, easy, easy.
And it's so important, isn't it, to they're not setting that expectation. The mind wants to tell you that, particularly when some of the deeper, you term it, Maharishi had said that even in a shallow dive you get wet, and so with the analogy of the sea again is no matter where you are, and you can be kind of up and down on that, and sometimes in the really deeper transcendent moments, which have been incredible, really, and is an experience you would.
But then you may not have those for weeks, and it's still fine. Exactly. It doesn't matter. That's the beautiful thing in life. There's so much judgment and pressure, and inside we compete with ourselves, or we beat ourselves up for 20 minutes twice a day. You're on a vacation from all of that, but you're not just wasting time. Something very powerful and healthy is happening.
Yeah. And I say to people, it really is about, like you said, I've gone weeks and weeks where it almost just feels those shallow parts of meditation, and yet it's just a practice. It's like, again, it's like physical training for me. You turn up, you do it, and it's a day.
Yeah, you just do it.
You just do it. You don't really overthink it. You get there, you do the meditation, put the time in, like having a shower, and it's part of. Afterwards,
you feel better. Yeah. Jerry Seinfeld has been meditating for almost 50 years. And I asked him once, what are his meditations like? And he said, they're fine, but I don't do it for what the experience is. I do it for how I feel for the 10 hours afterwards. It's like you dive into a swimming pool, it's fine, but the refreshment when you get out of the pool. And so he said, it used to be before I meditated, I'd feel tired at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, or I'd need a lot of coffee, or I'd just get cranky, or I couldn't think clearly, midday. He said, now I meditate in the morning and I just feel that steadiness and that energy and that creativity carry me through the day. And then I meditate again at the end of the day and I rejuvenate. It's like starting the day over again. And then I sleep well at night and I start the next day. So yeah, it doesn't matter what happens in meditation. It's how you feel afterwards. And how you feel afterwards is not just placebo, make-believe. There's over 400 scientific research studies that have been published on Transcendental Meditation in top refereed medical journals that show a whole constellation of changes taking place, from reduction of stress and anxiety and insomnia and healing of trauma and toxic stress, waking up the creative networks in the brain, more intelligence, actually higher IQ levels, and then these days more resilience, lowered substance use disorder. I mean, really significant things that no medicine is able to deliver. And if they do, there's still side effects. No bad side effects to TM.
And as you said at the start, you've done this with ex-military veterans as well, haven't you? Suffering with PTSD.
Well, we have a program. Yeah, we have a program in the United States called 21 to None. 21 veterans take their own lives every day in this country. It is absolutely unacceptable. And whatever the VA, Veterans Administration, is giving to these heroic, women and men, soldiers, is not enough. Could not work in. I mean, PTS, post-traumatic stress. I don't like to call it disorder, because disorder makes it sound like it's an internal thing. It's something that happened to these young men and women, the trauma. So it's post-traumatic stress that we're now working through the Veterans Administration hospitals and doing big research studies to make it so that the 1 million veterans with post-traumatic stress in this country will be able to go into any hospital or any TM center and learn to meditate for free. That's what we're working on. So, and the interesting thing is, Richard, this meditation has its roots. It was not some hippy-dippy thing. This meditation has its roots in the warrior classes of ancient times, when you had to have that steadiness inside and that clarity inside, and you couldn't act or fight out of anger or revenge or fear or jealousy or anything. You just have to be steady and clear and dynamic. And that's what this meditation does.
And you said that to me, didn't you, about the warriors and the samurais? I was up for meditation totally anyway. I mean, frustratingly, Bob, I'll be honest, you put me in touch, didn't you, here in the UK with the head of the David Lynch Foundation here. I tried to bring that into or get introductions to the MOD here in the UK for service personnel, and didn't really get anywhere, unfortunately.
It's different in the US. I think you're under-resourced. If the David Lynch Foundation had some more support staff for you, that would have helped. But in the US, we're doing a study now in 9 Veterans Administration hospitals on Transcendental Meditation and comparing it to a gold standard treatment. And it's going to be the largest study ever done on meditation and post-traumatic stress for veterans. Wow. And we have the support of all the top researchers in the country, and it's going to blow open the doors for bringing TM to veterans, not just in the U.S., but all over the world. So you'll be able to have this, and you'll get a lot more traction in the U.K.
Which would be amazing for guys over here. Just a little bit of name dropping, Bob. I'm going to say that really just to emphasize the point that, again, a lot of people woo-woo meditation. It's a bit out there. It's a bit, but again, something that I use. It's really weird. I use the word delicious when I finish meditation. Sometimes I've never ever used that word ever.
That's lovely. That's lovely.
Seems to go, and I just think to myself, and sometimes I think how people don't have that in their lives. But it came to mind because I was listening to Hugh Jackman on the Tim Ferriss podcast just recently, and I know him and his wife are friends and huge advocates of TM as well. But who else have you trained, Bob?
Oh, well, these are names of people that they said I can say, otherwise I wouldn't do it. But Hugh Jackman and, well, Jerry Seinfeld and Howard Stern are all long-term meditators, and I work with them. Ray Dalio, who's a famous hedge fund best-selling author, runs the largest hedge fund. Steve Martin, Michael J. Fox, Oprah Winfrey, Ellen DeGeneres, who's having a little press right now, but she's a good Ellen DeGeneres. Musicians, Sting, obviously Paul and Ringo, I work with them, but they meditate. They learned from Maharishi years and years and years ago. And I mean, the list goes on. It's a long, long list of very good people. And the nice thing is there are celebrities that are sort of not particularly substantive, but the ones who come that I have the good fortune to be able to teach are really good people. And I appreciate their friendship. They're deep people like Hugh Jackman, who's really looking to do well in his own life, by his family's life, and in the world. So there's a lot of good people. I remember when I taught, here's a name drop, Oprah Winfrey, and she said, well, I've learned all the different types of meditation. And I said, well, I don't need to teach you. And she said, I haven't been able to do them. They're so hard. I can't control my mind. I'll do it. She said, I would do it for 3 minutes and then I'd just get up because I was frustrated. I was failing. And then when I learned Transcendental Meditation, because of that effortlessness, of that ease, she said, I love it. It's the most human-friendly thing I ever do. And Cameron Diaz said, Transcendental Meditation is not just the easiest meditation, it's the easiest thing that she does. So there's a lot of good people. But, ultimately, and you've worked with a lot of these people, Katy Perry and Russell Brand and others, bottom line is, we glorify them in the press.
Yes.
But all the money in the world, if you have trauma growing up, if you witness abuse, or if you have a child who's got, serious drug issues, and you can throw money at them and you can give them all the best treatments, but boy, heroin, opioid, they can take a grip. No one is immune from okay, you got all the money in the world and you're insomnia and you can't sleep. Fine, buy all the sleeping pills you want. It's not going to do it.
No.
So these people, they're just people. We've heard it, but I see it firsthand. They're just people.
Yeah.
Good people. Yeah.
What do you see as the major resistance to meditation? The first thing that really comes to mind is what you said about Oprah said there, which is, I've got to control the mind. I've got to control the thoughts. And people sit there sweating.
I know. I think most people are not skeptical about meditation anymore. They know that there's research. I think they're skeptical that they can do it.
Yes.
They say, okay, yes, all right, there's a lot of research, my friends, but I tried to meditate. I tried to clear my mind of thoughts. I tried to do a guided meditation where the person told me to imagine I was a butterfly landing on a flower or something. And they said, I just couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Or I couldn't clear it, so I can't do it. And I think that's one of the real downfalls of this misunderstanding, that somehow, in order to meditate, it's very difficult. Very few people can do it, and it's hard to do. And I think the insight that Maharishi brought, which I love, it's like the democratization of meditation. It's everyone's birthright. The kid in the inner city, 10-year-old kid in the inner city, can meditate just as well as the billionaire.
Yes.
Just as well as the billionaire. Did you have something there?
No, it's all right. I'm just yeah. But it's
just as well as the billionaire. So it's everyone has access to it. Life is hard enough. Meditation shouldn't be hard. It should be easy, and it is easy. And easy does not mean superficial. Easy means graceful. Easy means effortless. Easy means natural. And that's the way we want to do it.
You see, I talk sometimes in terms of physical training, Bob. Call it relaxed power, and often it's when we're doing physical training. I know, and it's not the same as the meditation, but I often view the meditation as a sort of microcosm, or a concentrated training of the mind in some ways, or in seeing the mind and the activity of the mind, not fighting the mind, but in seeing it, then we can start to make sense of it. Then we can start to, and that can really impact, as we've said before, levels of performance, levels of people's happiness and well-being. So it's just...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go on, Bob.
Well, so much of it is any habit. They say it takes 3 to 6 weeks to get a new habit. And habit means there's neural pathways, there's connections in the brain. So what's a neural pathway? Like when you're a little kid and you learn how to tie your shoe. You try it, you can't do it, you try it, you can't do it, you try it, you can't do it, you try it. And then finally you got it, and you do it, and then you got it, and you've got it for the rest of your life. It's not like you have to start over every time you tie your shoe, or riding a bicycle. The reason is there are connections in the brain that you have to make in order to have that hand-eye coordination to tie your shoe. Once you've made those connections, there's something called neuroplasticity. The neurons or brain cells that fire together when you're learning how to tie your shoe wire together afterwards. And now you've learned how to tie your shoe for the rest of your life. And a neural pathway the description can be like you're in a jungle and then you carve out a path through the jungle. You hack through a path, and then now you've got a path, and you're beating it down and you're getting it down, and you keep walking that enough times, pretty soon the path is just smooth sailing. But it takes time. Same with a neural pathway. And the same with transcending. We sit to meditate. The same with mindfulness meditation. When you're working and you're straining or concentration, you get neural pathways for that. It's tough. And now you learn transcendental meditation, and I say, Richard, it's easy. And you go, but I'm so used to going down this path. But then after a while, you start going down the center path of just ease, and then you've got neural pathways for that. And then the process of diving within is just more and more easy.
I suppose to try and be a bit more graphic on the experience of what's actually taking place, to talk from my experience, is that moment of, you often start the meditation by saying, just close the eyes. So we just close the eyes, and then open the eyes, and then just close the eyes. And we do this 2 or 3 times, and then drop into it. And then it's after 30 seconds or so, start introducing the mantra. Now, again, one of the things I think about when you said is, like, we don't think about the mantra in the way, in a forceful way, i.e. if we were going to the shops, you say, if we were going to the shops, you wouldn't be going to the shops all the way going, I'm going to the shops, I'm going to the shops, I'm going to the shops, in your head. It's just something that you would know, and it kind of just comes up. And so
it's a faint idea. You have it as a faint idea.
A faint idea, yeah. So it becomes a sort of looser focus. And so it's not a gripping on. And then that allows, and then you almost feel yourself dropping in. And it feels like that. It feels like you feel yourself dropping in. Then you rise up a little bit, maybe in terms of that. And then in the really deeper meditations, and as you said, this isn't always the case. I've had these the most weird and wonderful experiences in terms of almost feeling at times like I'm totally heavy and I'm rooted to the ground, and then at other times like I'm almost, and this would sound strange to people, almost like I'm floating off in the air a little bit. And that sounds ever so weird to say to people, but it becomes where you become in the deeper moments more sort of detached almost.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is we go deeper in meditation. Just like it's unique, yet it's somehow very familiar, because we know we want to talk to somebody about something very important to us. Well, we say, let's go someplace quiet to talk. Not let's go to a sports bar pre-coronavirus. Let's go someplace quiet, because when we're settled down, we're quieter, we're sort of more in tune with who we are, we're more honest, we're less up here. And we're also sort of more expanded rather than we're just focused. That's why, you know, your partner wants to get you away on a vacation, so you're more yourself. So you just settle down, and it's more abstract. I told you that intuition is a feeling level. Somebody can tell you 3 reasons why you should do some job, do some investment thing. And they make perfectly good sense on the surface level, yet on an abstract feeling level, you go, doesn't feel right. You've had that, right? It doesn't feel right. And that's expanded. That's not, And so as we go deeper, the mind expands like a wave that settles down to the whole ocean. So and as we have that experience of expansion, sometimes the body in the deep rest feels heavy. Sometimes the body in that deep rest feels lighter. It's a physiological thing. It's just, we're just, and we don't mind it. It's how the body reacts whenever it gets profound, healthy, healing rest that comes during TM.
And it is that natural process of the settling of thoughts that, again, we're not fighting thoughts. Thoughts come in the meditation. And it's
so great to hear you talk this way, Richard, because you really are, those neural pathways are there for you. It's lovely to hear it. It's really great.
I thought you were probably getting frustrated with me over the first few years, Bob, but...
Pardon?
I thought you were probably getting frustrated with saying the same thing for the first few years, but no, I'm joking. But I mean, it's like yesterday. One of the things I would say is that it's very counterintuitive to people to sit and do nothing in what are busy and pressured lives. And even now, after all the years of meditation, which is nothing compared to yours, but yesterday afternoon, for example, I had quite a lot on. I was trying to get things done in terms of work and so on. And then I look at the clock, and for me it's 3 p.m, one of the refresher calls that we have. And I looked at it, and my immediate reaction was, oh God, I haven't got time. I've got too much to do, all the rest of it. And the mind telling me that. And then, no, come on. And this is the discipline comes, no, come on. get the cushions, I just sit on the floor and on the cushions. And, 25 minutes later, when we've come out of that, I'm in a completely different space. I'm in a completely different place, mentally, physically, and also in terms of productivity.
Well, it's so interesting that the world can have such a grip on us. No, there's no time to meditate. I've just got to keep going because it's so urgent. Of course, if you look back 2 days ago, you think, well, what did I do? I really didn't. There's 1,440 minutes in a day.
Yeah.
First one we do first thing in the morning before the day begins, but we really didn't have 20 minutes. How much time do we use up, surfing the net? How much time do we use up not being as efficient as we could? But you're right. Once you do it, and then it's like, oh, okay. It's like a rebooting, and then you feel better. So I'm proud of you for doing that. That's great. That's great.
And it is that kind of resistance that people have in terms of that and that, again, I think that's the counterintuitive bit. That gripping on, mentally gripping on to gain control of things that they've got going on in their lives, and we all do it as well. And but just again, that reset, as you said, I think the main thing to think of a reset.
Buddhists, everybody in martial arts and in exercise, it's all about balance, right? It's all about balance. Diet, exercise, everything. It's about balance. Not too much, not too little. Just find that, Buddha said, the middle way. That and other
yes.
Coaches talk about balance. You don't want to strain your body. You don't want to be too lethargic. It's balance. And so we do so much, and every day we're taking on so much stress, our worries, but other people's worries. We absorb like a sponge. We just take it on, and then this undercurrent of the coronavirus, well, I'm young, I'm fine, I can handle this, but it turns out, not really. It turns out those stresses, even in our 20s and 30s, are registering in the central nervous system, in the brain, and it's building up and building up and building up. And so then when we're in our 30s and early 40s, we're starting to think, well, I'm not feeling as much energy as I used to. I'm like overreacting a little bit. People are pushing my buttons more than they used to. I'm not sleeping and that's not just an overnight thing. It's been building and building and building. And that's why adding something like adding TM to our regimen at an early age, it's wonderful for right now, but it's a preventive measure for a good, long, healthier life. So I'm glad to hear that you're taking advantage of that 3 p.m. refresher.
Oh, yeah. What would you say to people, Bob, listening to next steps or...
Oh,
what would
I would say go to tm.org, and then you can find wherever you are. If you're in the UK, you'll find on tm.org there's a drop down, and you can find out the information in the UK, but I know this is heard everywhere.
Yeah.
But go to tm.org. Transcendental Meditation is taught through a non-profit organization in the US and in all countries. And there is a moderate course fee that's asked at the time of instruction, and that is asked according to a person's ability to pay. But that's how the TM teacher pays their rent, puts food on their table. So we're all contributing to everybody. There's no outside funding, and if you can't afford it, you can talk to the teacher about a full scholarship from the David Lynch Foundation. We do want people to learn. But I would go to tm.org, find out more about the meditation, do some research, and then I would just, conclude by saying maybe 20 years ago, the idea of meditating was a luxury, carving 20 minutes twice a day out of your life. It was a luxury, but it's not anymore. The impact of stress on our lives, of trauma, it's all pervasive. We know what it does to the cognitive functioning. We know what it does to it's risk factors for even down the road mental dementia. To say nothing of just immediately of just feeling irritated or feeling antsy or edgy or not having the energy we used to have. Health, taking care of our health is not, and Richard will tell any better than it, is not doing stuff from the neck down. It's not just eating well and exercising.
Well,
got to do something with this.
Absolutely. I mean, as much of a bigger advocate I am of physical training, I love physical training, and it does settle the mind a lot of the times as well. But it isn't everything. And for me, I put this mental training, I term it mental training, but training the mind to drop into these quieter states of being, so that we can inhabit better ways of being more productive and being more focused in what it is that we do, not so caught in what we're saying to ourselves. And one of the things that I just wanted to say, Bob, for me, that sort of explains that sometimes I've heard it called the small self and the bigger self, if you like, and sometimes in the meditation is really to actually see that the thinking mind is not the whole big picture. You aren't your thoughts. And that seems really radical to people. And I say to people, you are not your thoughts. But we can be caught in these storylines for years and years and years. And ultimately for me, this ability to be able to create some spaciousness, to see that is fundamental to our well-being and happiness.
That's beautifully put, Richard. That's really, we're not our achievements, we're not our body, just about, it's like we're not just outer. There's an inner, there's an experiencer, there's the I, the knower, and we can't just read about that, but we can begin to access that as we transcend during TM down to that deepest level of my own quiet self. And then I know, oh, I'm more than just my thoughts. I'm more than just moods. That's an expression of me, but it's not my inner core. And that's just could sound like woo-woo or New Age philosophy, but when we experience it, when we access it in meditation, it changes. There's a constellation of changes in a healthy direction of the way my brain functions, respiratory system functions, cardiovascular system functions, digestive system. It's a complete transformation to something better health.
And it's not something that once you've experienced that you can not know. You feel that, and it's a totally different thing. But I'm aware I've kept you in your schedule seems crazy, Bob. I have to say at the minute. How is the schedule?
Good. I have to get off now, but it's an honor to spend time with you anytime, Richard. It's an honor to spend time with you anytime.
I'd like to thank you on the behalf of the listeners to really introduce meditation. It's so important to talk it through properly from somebody that's done so much in the field of meditation.
And I thank you, because if you're not opening the channel, we don't know if we don't know. If somebody doesn't provide an opportunity to hear about it. So most congratulations and appreciation goes to you for inviting me and for doing what you're doing with this great podcast.
That's great. Thanks, Bob. Take care of the States.
Take care. Take care to
Thanks,
everybody.
Bob.
Thank you. Bye-bye.